Let's call the meeting to order, please.
Okay. Mike Davenport,
Here.
Sherelle Fuller, Dan Nicholas,
Here.
Ray Pavicic,
Here.
Rick Pavanato,
Here.
Joanna Vasquez Drexler,
Here.
Haley Grubich,
Here.
and Ariel Johnson.
Here.
All right, sounds like we have a quorum. Let's stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We need to approve the minutes from December 16th closed meeting, or business meeting, and the December 16th closed meeting. Okay, a motion?
So moved.
Second, somewhere?
I'll second.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay. Terry Pavicic,
Aye.
Dan Nicholas,
Aye.
Rick Pavanato.
Aye.
Joanna Vasquez Drexler,
Aye.
Sherelle Fuller.
Aye.
So, thank you. And Mike Davenport.
Aye. All right, minutes are approved. We now move to the reception of visitors. We have, do we have any visitors that want to speak this evening? No? All right, so let's move on to the recommendations and reports of superintendent.
All right, tonight is finance heavy. We start out with our comprehensive annual financial report, and I'll turn it over to Mark.
That was my nickname in college, by the way, Finance Heavy.
Finance heavy? Yeah, but you're now finance light. Yeah, slim down a bit.
Can I jump on that one?
Never ending. He's always got something.
Susan Jones is here from Miller Cooper, who's our auditing firm, and she'd like to present the comprehensive annual report to you. There is a copy at each of the board members' space there, along on the right inside the inside cover, there's what we call the management letter, and I think she'd be able to answer questions and address both of those. So this is Susan.
Do you mind if I sit here just so I can put this down?
Yeah, that'd be fine.
Absolutely.
Just make sure you have the microphone there close to you.
Sure, I'm coordinated enough to.
No, that's fine.
Welcome to the table.
Thank you. So good evening. So if you turn the page right before the financial section, there is the Certificate of Excellence in Financial Reporting that the district did receive on the 2018 CAFR, and they plan to file that as well this year, and they plan to get another certificate as well. But past the financial section tab is our audit opinion, and the district did receive an unmodified audit opinion, which is the highest level of assurance the district can receive. Unlike the last couple of years, there's no extra paragraph in there that we had to adopt no new accounting pronouncements. Next year, and I'll talk about it in a few minutes, there will be a new accounting pronouncement that needs to be adopted. Past management's discussion and analysis on page 19 really starts the core of the basic financial statements. It's the consolidated statement of net deficit. And this has all the assets, the liabilities, the deferred inflows and outflows of the district, including the long-term assets and liabilities. So really, the basic financial statements really reflect the bond issuance, the $52 million of bonds that you guys issued during the year, as well as the cash. So cash is up from the end of last year by about $52 million, and it's really the bond proceeds that you're holding on to until you started spending it since the 6/30/2019 year. But at the end of the year, there was a net deficit of $12.5 million, which was a reduction in the deficit from the previous year of $4.9 million.
Susan, I just wanted, while we're on this page, one of the things that you'll see a big change in the next couple of years is when we finish the master facility plan, we'll be adding $136 million of assets. All of our buildings are pretty much fully depreciated at this point, even though they're very usable. So that's a big swing right there, as well as some pension obligations, which we've been recognizing over the last couple of years. So, which all schools are being required to put on their books.
Yeah, that's really, there's, right now, total liabilities at the end of the year are $182 million. A big chunk of that are these pension liabilities, and then obviously your long-term bonds. Turning to page 20 is the statement of activities. So total revenues were 135 million, offset by total expenses of 130 million. So there was an increase, revenues over expenses of 4.9 million, which really led to the reduction in the deficit during 2019. Turning to page 21 and 22, this is the governmental fund, so it shows each one of your major funds at the end of 2019. And again, most of the activity or the significant changes from prior years in the capital projects fund, where all that bond proceeds money was, is in that $61.8 million. So at the end of the year, combined fund balance was about $57.9 million, which is up from the previous year of about $45 million. Turning to page 24 and 25, I just want to point out, this has all the revenues that the district earned during the year, offset by the expenditures. And you can see kind of in that middle section, the proceeds of the bonds of being received of $51.9 million, and then the premium on that bond issuance of another $8.6 million. So overall, there was an increase in fund balance of $45.7 million during 2019. Obviously, as you make those capital expenditures to grow that capital asset, that's going to reduce the fund balance that you have, because you're going to be expending the money. On page 27, I just want to point out the fiduciary funds, which includes all the student activity money that the district holds on behalf of the student activities. That cash and investments of $637,000 related to student activities is not included in the cash of the district that we just talked about a few minutes ago. But next year, there is a new accounting pronouncement that's going to be implemented, GASB 84, in which ISB is still kind of interpreting that for the industry, but it looks like that $637,000 is going to be actually included in your general fund next year. So that'll be a change for next year. Turning to page 29 begins the footnotes to the financial statements. The footnotes go from pages 29 through 82. It really takes each one of your financial statement line items and talks about it, provides a lot more detailed. So if you wanted to look at, you know, a more deeper dive into long-term debt or capital assets, those are in separate notes of the financial statements. Past the footnotes to the financial statements on page 83 is some additional information related to all the pension liabilities of the district. One thing that I wanted to point out this year related to the IMRF fund on page 83, obviously that fund is very strongly funded at 80%, but the liability went from $6.2 million at the end of 18 to $15.4 million at the end of 19, and that's primarily related to investment income generated was $10.5 million in 2018, and there was a loss of about $3.9 million in 2019. So all the actuarial estimates and assumptions that go into all these pension liabilities, changes in those really impact some swings in the liabilities from year to year. So past all the information on the pension liabilities, there's a deeper dive of each of the funds and all the revenues and expenditures and a comparison to budget and actual if you wanted to look at that year over year. Does anybody have any questions on the financial statements? And then, as Mark pointed out, included in your package is our management letter, which basically, as we execute our audit procedures, we do consider all the internal controls of the district. We don't issue a separate opinion on internal controls, but based on our review and our testing, we didn't identify any material weaknesses or significant deficiencies. We just have two best practice recommendations. One of them is when we were doing some testing of procurement cards and board reimbursements, we noticed that sales tax was being paid on some of those transactions. And if you continue to educate people that use those cards that if they show the district's exemption letter, they don't have to pay those taxes. And then the last item is on page 2, and we've talked about that over the last couple years. We include this comment in all our letters, and we continue to do that. just because we see so many more sophisticated phishing scams and IT security breaches that you continually need to monitor it, because they are becoming a lot more creative, a lot more aggressive with regard to that. And, our many clients that, we do audit, they might have the best controls in place, but if you're not educating your employees on what emails to click on or just safety precautions to take, you could end up with a breach. But that concludes my formal presentation. If anybody has any questions.
No questions?
Very thorough. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think the sales tax recommendation was something that's come up in past CAFRs.
We have the exemption letter actually on the P cards themselves, but some vendors just don't have this system set up, or, because we allow our employees to go to different places, just pretty much to get whatever supplies they need. So it's really more on the supply side when a teacher with the card goes to a place that does not recognize or have a way to discount the sales tax. So it does still happen. But we have been working on it, and we're trying to enforce it and let them see how much they're paying in sales tax. But sometimes these are items that they run out and get, or they see on the weekend and get, because they know they can use it in a class rather than going through the formal PO process, which is really what we prefer they do, because that way we can more easily avoid the tax, because it comes from a central office as opposed from the outlet.
Right.
But we'll work on that. We'll keep working on that piece.
Sounds good.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you.
continuing the Mark Stalen Show.
Okay.
Quarterly financial report.
So the quarterly financial report is next here, and I think if Anthony can put up the fund balance. So this is a comparison. Now, last year, and actually it was in the end of June, I think, was when we started including the health benefit account in here. So we added it to last year's exhibit on the bottom here. And so you can see, I don't know if you can move that up at all, a little bit, so that we cut the headings off. Tony, just, okay. Good. So we have percentage of revenues, because we want to keep an eye on that. It's 50.1% now. You can't see it quite, but it's 49.3 on the bottom here. So we've, it's roughly the same. We also had so far this year, $171,000 reduction in the health benefit account. But we did increase our premiums, but they didn't take effect until January of this year. So none of it's reflected here yet. So in the next quarterly report, we should see that 6% increase in premiums affecting that balance. So the drought that we did with the double hit continued here down to $1.5 million for the health benefit account. And really, we're in just about the same position on the fund balance level. Some of the items that Susan just referred to with all the pension liabilities, those are actuarial future costs that we will pay for with future revenues, but they only show the negative liability at this point, because this is today, as if the school was to close. And also the bond proceeds, getting it in 1 year and spending it the next. That's why I typically do not show the site and construction funds. I just show the operating funds for this exhibit.
Yeah.
So after hearing where you got millions of dollars of deficit sitting there, that's really, it's actuarially calculated, but that's not necessarily where we are. And so the capital projects funds, debt service funds are excluded from this review. And we're really in just about the same spot we were last year. We're actually a little bit better. We have about a 2.4 million, I don't know if you can see it on the bottom, increase in our total operating fund balance. If we go to revenues, just a couple quick items on the revenue side. There we go. Maybe move that up a little there. Yeah, there we go. 92% this year revenue collected against 90% last year. Looks a little bit better, but our overall, we had a couple key points. One is food services If you look at the budgeted amount for food service, $843,000 this year, $935 last year. That's because we ended up a bit below last year, so we really set it as a low target this year. So we're 59% collected now. We're still getting some reduction in the full meals being served, but we are going up an a la carte. So it's telling us it's a time issue. The kids are taking the grab and go things and not some of the longer meals that it takes to eat a part meal. So we hope to see an end of this when we can open up our cafeterias and have space for them to eat a full period of lunch, that we can concentrate on different meal opportunities there. Everything else is fairly consistent. Our other local revenues you see are up. Part of that is some substantial donations that we've had more recently, which have been wonderful to receive.
Yeah.
Those are earmarked, and those will go into those activity funds eventually that we will combine here, but just for presentation, we really will still keep a separate checking account and account for each building for the activity funds. We're not going to merge it with our educational fund or anything. It may be in the financial statement, but nowhere else. We still keep those funds separately for internal control purposes. And then state aid is actually looking, pretty good compared to last year. But again, this is a cash basis report, and we picked up a couple of last year's payments in this fiscal year because they were $900,000 behind last year. They're only about $500,000 down this year.
But did we get the whole 900,000 from last?
We did get it, but we didn't, we got what we expected, but some of it's prorated, which about $100,000 proration again this year that we probably will see based on where the state expects themselves to be. So overall, this is looking pretty good. If we go to expenditures, there we go. Expenditures 46 versus 46. We had one more day in the first half of the year this year, 85 compared to 84 last year. Salaries, benefits, everything's pretty clean right there. Purchase services is where we're going to be monitoring. There's two areas that we're going to have to really watch, and I think we could have trouble with purchase services, one of them. Transportation costs are just again up, which we did expect them to go up, but we have 11 more tuition students this year compared to last year, which was not expected that we would have that big of an increase. We thought we'd have more of a shift. So we have special ed costs related to them and some of them are outplaced. The only good news about that is that we will probably get about 80% of that money back the next year because the state reimburses special ed programs at a relatively high level. It used to be 100%, but now it's in the 80s. So we will recover some of that, and that's what we're hanging on to because those are the two areas that we're seeing some growth in. There's been a big shuffle in the different providers of services because a lot of places don't have enough drivers. So we've been using 2 or 3 different special needs operators to try and keep all of our kids going to school on time. And so and some of them are getting to be pretty expensive. So we're lucky that part is being reimbursed, but it might be when the state looks at it at the end of the year, everybody's seeing there may not be enough dollars allocated, but we're hoping that we'll at least get about 80% of the special ed reimbursed.
Capital outlay
Federal aid,
numbers.
any question?
Yeah, the capital outlay numbers.
We just, that's the timing of when we do it. We are going to hold back because honestly, I'm concerned we may run into a negative when we hit the end of the year, and that it'll be within 1%, but it'll be a negative number, which I'm trying to avoid. So we have not yet approved, or we just put out to bid and received this last week, bids on the multi-purpose white activity buses. We have 4 of those that we put the hold on. We won't get those for 4 months anyways, and so we would barely get them for the last part of our fiscal year, so we may just push that into the next fiscal year, which will help us. And then there's just some other projects that are going to start in June that we haven't paid for yet, or that, so we have more projects that'll be, Jim has told me he'll be within, maybe $50,000 to $75,000 of his budget for the items he's controlling. So we'll get there, just not spent yet this year compared to last year. The revenues, we got that already, got this. I think that was it for this part of it. Any questions? Good.
All right.
Okay.
All right, next, now I think we just have some good
Keeping us
news.
good.
for
Yeah.
A couple of these.
Well, alternative revenue bonds
Yeah,
first. Yeah.
that's one of the good news. We pay taxes every year from these alternate revenue bonds, take it out of the operating funds. This is the last year for these bonds that we will be abating, because it'll catch us in 2 years, but because we've already issued abated the bonds for this last calendar year, but we're now going to be doing it for the 2020 calendar year. So it's $1.3 million that eventually will start to come back to our revenue, not revenue, but our operations,
Right.
that we'll see reduction. And I think you saw it on the 5-year plan. But we abate these because we have enough dollars coming from designated state aid dollars to the district to pay for it, and that's part of the deal. They're called our alternate revenue bonds in case state aid got interrupted and they cut it to a point where we couldn't pay for these out of that funding source. We could issue taxes and let them go out. But we aren't letting them go out because we do have enough dollars designated as state aid to us. That's about $1.3 million. And I think, if we don't have any questions about that, that's an action item for tonight. Another action item is the summer sports camp fees, which we've made an increase last year of $15 per tier, so it was kind of a big increase for us in this area. It was starting to get pretty tight for them to get supplies and to pay for the needs of the plants, the camps. This year, it's going to be really tough because of the construction that's going on. The tennis courts themselves at North will be under construction or won't be available. So some of the camps might not even run, just something like that. They're trying to do some of the things, more things in the field house, because so much of the outside area is going to be being worked on and fenced off. So we talked to the athletic directors, and they felt there was no need to increase the fees this year, and it might even push some kids away from coming already, where there may be only a few kids that can make the different locations or the different times. We don't think there needs to be an increase, but we wanted to. We used to only bring this when we were making a change, like every 5 or 7 years. We're recommending just to bring it every year so we can discuss it. So even though there's no change, we'd like to take an action on it for this next summer camp time.
That's a good idea, I think, to bring it back every year, just so that
To
things
keep
don't
it-
get out of whack, because I think that's what happened. That's why we had the $15 bump last year.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
so that's an action item. And
School maintenance?
that's it for me for a little bit.
School maintenance project grant application?
Yeah, there's a maintenance grant that the state pushes out. I think it's probably a bit of a political thing, so that they limit it to $50,000, so as many districts they can get spread a little bit of money on. And we did, Jareed did a fantastic job of applying for this. The first criteria that they follow, I believe, is safety or emergencies, that's right. And we just happen to have an emergency that we think this could be partly used on. You have to have at least a matching, and actually the electric wiring, even though it's life safety work at the North High School auditorium, is what we would choose to apply this to, because we're going to be doing that pretty quickly. We don't have a bid out on that yet. We aren't sure what that price is going to be. And so we would apply this money to that first. And if we end up with a little bit of money left over in the life safety fund, it's just like about every week if you really look deep, you can find something that qualifies. And so, and it may all be needed for it, because again, that's a project we're very nervous about being able to get a bid out. Electric bids have been a little bit high for the rest of the master facility plan, so this is another buffer for us on that area. May not get it. In fact, the money runs out before they get to everybody anyways. They don't fully fund all the requests. And because the district being relatively wealthy compared to other schools in terms of EAB, we may not even see but we thought we'd at least put it in there. And so there'll be an action item to approve that application tonight.
Thank you, Judy.
Master facility plan? Tony, could you pull up the financial from MFP? Thank you. All right, so this is the monthly report on financials. Our actual financial picture today is much different than when we received this a couple of weeks ago. When we received this, we had just completed the bid opening and processing for South High. At that point, we were about 5% over budget on Phase C, mostly related to steel, electric, those kinds of, a couple of those items were driving costs up. So you can see the original number there with the good temperature gauge is that contingency line to see how we're trending in it. The last time we came to you, that contingency was right around 6 million. You see it dips down to 4.2 because of that 5% over at South. But in the last couple of weeks, a little preview here of next month's, we got bid openings for North High, and we were over $3 million under budget.
Yay.
So that contingency will bounce back up to where we've been kind of maintaining it throughout the project. So that will kind of restore us to back kind of where we were. So this is kind of that ebb and flow of the process. If you remember, we want that contingency number to be at around 2 million heading into the last summer. Just to be sure we're good. We expect to be well above that if things progress as they have. We're running out of unknowns for design and bidding and those kinds of things. Now we're just running into the unknowns of the actual construction.
Yeah.
So we're doing well there. Otherwise, everything else is tracking where we expect it to be. Tony, if you could go to page 2 for me. That's the gray bars across the top that we tend to look at each of these meetings so far. So there's the remaining contingency, which I mentioned next month will bounce back up. Furniture is, remember, that's how much we've set aside for that. We expect that's furniture and equipment and everything else that will fully be spent, if not more, by the end of this. And then the allowances, you can see Phase A, remember, those are the contingencies within the bids that once we close out the jobs with each of the groups, we could capture some of that back. Phase A will remain stable there for the remainder of B and C in the phases because that's connected to projects that last the whole duration, like sprinklers, fire alarms. You'll hear me say this every month from here on out. So that's where that's sitting. Phase B is what we're into now. So that's really Phase B at South, the contingencies that are sitting out there. You'll see that Phase B number grow at the next meeting, and you'll start to see Phase C fill up as we accept the bids for next summer, not this year's work, but the 21 work. So that's kind of where we're at, but we're tracking on budget. A couple other items of note. Bleachers at North, as I've mentioned before, not going real well with the soils underneath. We now have a plan. We now are in the design for the concrete that'll go underneath that. But it has caused delays to the point where we can't be sure that we will have the bleachers ready for graduation at North. So we've already informed families that we're going to move that indoors. 2 out of the last 3 years have been indoors because of weather anyway. The air conditioning definitely has made that a much better experience when it is indoors.
Makes it easier to plan when you know exactly what you're
Right.
going to do.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's,
There is a
it's
chance, there is an outside chance that if the weather holds up like it has been, and we have this super mild winter, that we could catch back up and end up. But it's such an outside chance that we just want to tell families, just prepare so that it, outside,
Yeah.
outside chance.
That's-
Outside chance of outside.
Okay. Well, I was curious with the, so what are we needing to do with the bleachers to take care of those soils?
What we need to do, not we, but the architects have done, is redesign the footings of the foundations to make it suitable for the soils that are there.
All right, so it's not like we're
not
putting
like we're-
pilings in or we're removing a ton of.
It is somewhat of a piling that's going in. It's like a crushed stone piling.
Okay.
That they put in and then actual pound into place.
Oh, yeah.
But
pretty
it's
deep.
further down.
Yeah, it's further down, yeah.
Than we
So-
really
And
anticipated.
a
Yeah.
bigger cost.
And
yeah.
have they started that work yet?
No, they're still in the finalization of the designs of that work.
So that work could make some vibrations in the soils. Some of the neighbors might,
Yeah, I don't know enough yet to speculate on that yet, Mike, but once we do, we've been very good at informing the neighbors
Right.
of things like helicopters and
Right.
and other impacts.
well, it's just one of those, so anyhow,
Yeah.
those construction activities that could be
It could.
bothersome to some people.
We'll definitely
So-
keep that in mind.
And South seems to be going okay?
South is going great. They're ahead of schedule.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so,
Well, we could always have graduation all at South.
yeah, we could if we had to.
I mean,
That's not going to go over real
It's a
well.
possibility.
no, the lead balloon, but, you know.
We could combine graduations, do them all in one shot.
District
There
99
you go.
graduation.
You know, we would not be objecting to that as a board,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, well,
And then the final bit of news, before we digress too far here, the final bit of news is that Phase A has passed all third-party inspections. So if you remember,
Good job, well done.
yep, there's all of that process, and then the board hires that third party to make sure that, especially with the design build, that it's all white, that we want to make sure, White and Company, that we want to make sure that there's a set of eyes looking at all the work afterwards. It's cleared everything at this point. We've received sign-offs on it. So Phase A is in the books.
So I had a question about that. I'm sorry, I was out of town all weekend at a school, a swim meet in Indianapolis, and then today at a college visit for my
that's
daughter.
fine.
So I didn't have time to get this to you ahead of time. But, about those inspection reports, so you gave us the summary. Am I correct in assuming that there were things, though, that they were catching that needed along the way?
Absolutely. Along the way, yeah. This is the final clearance.
So just curious, any feel for how much, anything, so,
out of the ordinary.
yeah, I mean,
Well, yeah,
in
there
the
was.
opinion of the inspection service, are they seeing typically the amount of things that they would normally expect to see, or has there been?
I haven't asked that question in comparison to other projects, but I know that there has been things that we have had to respond to as a team in response to the third-party inspections, where they have caught things or provided feedback where we've had to go back and relook at things again. A big example of that they caught that nobody else did was the visitors lot at South, that it was not graded correctly for disabled parking. So, and it went all the way back to the folks that laid the foundation, and then it wasn't caught when they came in and the contractors laid the asphalt. So everybody who had done all that work had signed off on it that it was correct, and then they had to fix,
Got
the contractors had to fix that at no cost. So, our third-party inspectors caught it, went back to the contractors, and they had to fix it. So, I mean, in just that way, in that one project, they've probably paid for themselves.
Yeah.
Well, it's
that's
critical,
good.
I mean, they're providing a critical service to us, since the same company that essentially, that did the design work is doing
Right.
the construction, so they are our independent eyes and ears, so that's why I asked the question. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. So they're doing their job.
Good, good.
So Hank, before you move off of,
Yeah.
I know it's not technically MFP, but just quick update, a little bit update on what happened and how we fixed the electrical problems at North last week?
Oh, sure. It actually goes back to work that started with the air conditioning work in the first MFP, or the first summer of MFP work. In that work, there was a new set of electrical runs that kind of went from the transformer by the south parking lot at North to a manhole that's right by Main Street that then runs back to the other side of the building near the field house, where a new chiller went in that first summer. In that manhole, there are 3 pairs of high power lines that run, voltage lines, yeah. When those were spliced together, one of the three of the splices failed. Why? I don't know. It could have been in wrong. It could have been failure in materials. It broke, right? I mean, welcome to owning a couple of giant houses, right? So something went wrong. It broke. It took us a while to figure out where the failure was. We thought it was related to the construction work the day before when we did the power shutdown. It was just coincidence that it happened in close proximity to a power shutdown for other master facility plan work. So we opened it up. We kind of patched it for now so that it's safe. We can run full power that we need to. There's redundancy built into those things. That's why there's the multiple runs and multiple pairs.
Not the permanent fix, though.
This is not the permanent fix. It's a temporary fix until the summer because it's a longer period of time. But the high voltage contractors are very comfortable that everything's safe, everything will continue running without challenges there for the remainder of the school year.
I was happy we didn't have to do the e-learning day.
Our students weren't so happy.
Yeah.
Got a lot
They
of
were
booze.
very excited about
Got a lot of booze
about
from
that
students.
possibility.
Yeah.
They really wanted the e-learning day.
I mean,
I let down kids that night. Yeah,
I'm glad we have that as an option, but that's not, that's
yeah,
not
I
ideal.
prefer not to use them up. So, and it was a kind of a sketchy day in ways. There was just hit and miss with power at times, but everybody worked their way through it.
So it brought up kind of a curiosity question for me in that technically it would have been an emergency day
Yeah,
just for our students at North.
correct.
So what, in the event that you would use up all the emergency day, I mean, I know this is a far-flung sort of, but what, I just wanted,
North would theoretically have run out of emergency days before South then, unless South had some weird
Okay.
day happen, yes.
so, wow.
So then there could have been a potential where South was making up a day later and North was just excused from a day.
It wouldn't have been so we wouldn't as an entire district have had to make up the day. No, that's why I was.
You don't
that's
have
where I
to
was
anyway, because it's e-learning.
'Cause you got
That counts as the
e-learning.
day. Yeah, but we can only do, well, we're only required to do 5 of them. And once the 6th one shows up, it's act of God, and we don't have to make up those days.
Got it. Okay.
So,
Just curious. It's seldom, I don't know if we've ever had a situation where one school had to have the day off where the other one didn't.
I've been in other situations where it's
did.
happened.
We did?
Did you have?
That flooding
Oh,
at North High probably 7-8 years ago.
yeah. All right.
The morning of all of
It
a
happens.
sudden.
Yeah.
Couldn't get anybody around,
Right.
Yeah, most of the time it's electrical, water main breaks,
Okay.
those fires, those are the kinds of things that would lead to that.
Got it.
Usually weather systems cover both North and South High.
Right.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Just, we're going to have a traffic update next time?
The next board meeting on the 24th. Yeah.
And do we still think we're going to be able to make some changes and still remain within budget?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep. We're still getting the designs for both of those as the board asked for. So for both the South High drives. So they're in the process of designing and specking and all that kind of stuff. And we'll come back with actual numbers when we get closer. But yeah, absolutely, contingency will still support those alternates.
Sound good.
I stopped at a new stop sign on Norfolk on my way over.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I was happy to see that, yes.
Yeah.
Because that's a spot right there where they really need, I mean, it's needed, so.
Yeah.
Yep.
I
So
imagine
it's-
they speed through there,
Well-
through Kingsley.
Right, that's just it.
That's been the work of actually District 58 and their parents with the village doing similar work to what we're doing. I've attended a couple of their meetings as well, so.
I love it.
Looking forward to the,
What's that noise? Doesn't
Not sure.
sound like it's supposed to.
Zombie apocalypse.
okay.
We still have one more thing in master
All right.
facility plan, some more good news coming out of Mark's department.
Always, Mark.
Okay, so this is the original financing plan for the master facility plan, and notice there was originally 4 issues that we were going to do spread over 4 years. And last year, early in spring, we started looking at interest rates, and they were really dropping down. And a lot of that was because of demand for bonds, and maybe some people getting out of the volatility in the stock market, but and just the economy, the interest rates are low. So we called our underwriters and said, let's combine this 2020 financing here. We split 20 million from here, added it to that one, and then we added the balance over here. And if you look at that, the bonds, you can go out as far as 20 years when you issue a bond. And so by issuing in 2021, we could get all the way out to 2040 for the levy. And this is where we would be. And we would be keeping you notice it's pretty much the same, $8.9 million every year. We're keeping the same dollar amount so that the impact to a taxpayer is going to stay consistent throughout each year in terms of real dollars. We could have gone with increasing this by what we think the EAV was going to go up and keep the relative rate the same, but we'd be taxing them at a higher, you'd be seeing the $65 up. So this $8.9 million was our target every year, no matter how we issued the bonds.
Right.
Now, if we flip to the second one, oh, you know what, I'm sorry, go back just for one quick second, Tony, I apologize. The total cost of that, it's like when you mortgage your house, you pretty much pay double for it, but the total debt service under this plan, based on the rates that we were using during the referendum, and we purposely padded them a little bit, but not as much as it turns out that we did because the rates were so low. About $204,000, $4 million, excuse me, dollars of principal and interest payments throughout the entire.
So that's our original forecast that we went to the
This is
community
what we told the
with.
taxpayers we would be worst case scenario. So now please, Tony, sorry.
That's my drum roll, Mark.
Yeah, so what we did is we combined those, so we did 3 issues. So in last June, we issued $60 million. And then just this last month, we have not even closed on it yet. It's going to be February 4th. There'll be the closing date for it and the settlement date for it when we, everything's locked in though. We're just waiting for paperwork to be done. So $67.6 million. And we knocked out 4.2 years off of this whole thing. And so now the total debt service is $167 million.
That's huge.
It's a saving of $32.7 million to our taxpayers. And some people might say, well, why don't you just skim this thing down? But then it really won't change this that much. It might be a $10 or $15 change. You know, it's not a huge impact. Like a taxpayer would say, oh, wow, relief. But what it does is it opens up for the district. I don't think I'll be here at that point in 2041.
I'm not planning on being here either, Mark.
For us to issue, because
2041? No way.
You're a young man.
That's only 20,
awesome.
that's only 20.
it opens up, and it just, first, this longest debt is the most expensive. The longer you go out, the higher interest rate you pay, so we get bigger bang for doing that in the first place. But it also opens a window that this debt will be paid off sooner, and so the district will have more options in 2041 and earlier because of doing this technique. So we're really, really pleased that, I mean, a lot of it was just the interest rates coming, but we decided to just jump at it now and put it in the bank now while we have it.
So Haley and Ariel's children you might benefit from that if your homeowners.
Yeah, when they move back into the community, their tax rates.
Yeah.
There you go.
This is
That's a good thing.
tremendous. I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a big
nobody's
deal.
getting this kind of deal for their mortgages on their homes. I mean, you're for $136 million, 136.6, right? 0.7?
136.6.
136.6
Right.
is costing us 167.9.
67, pretty much even.
I mean,
Yeah.
I don't want to belittle. I mean, but that's not a whole lot to pay to have the use of that money over 20 years. You know, that's
Plus
tremendous. It's just tremendous.
One of the reasons that we were able to do that was because of the rating of the district,
Right.
for which we can thank our financial stewardship.
That's right.
And we've compared very favorable to very affluent districts.
Right, we actually got what other districts are getting for AAA ratings, because part of it was also, though, the doing the double tax exempt. So, but even when we compared it to Hinsdale, we were beating them in some of theirs. They're AAA and they did double tax exempt as well. They issued last fall. So this was perfect timing. We knew that January is a high demand month because they stop putting bonds in the market about the first or second week of December, and there's no bonds on the market. So early January is usually a month where there's a lot of good bidders. And we had, in some of the cases, I think, Nancy, it was 5 times more orders for bonds in a particular year than we even had bonds to sell. So that means the underwriter can go back, lower the interest rate, and then spread it out to them, and we win on that. So we really had a really good
It's pretty
reaction.
impressive to see $67.6 million worth of
Yeah.
bonds get sold in 40 minutes. Yeah, it's something to see.
But a great planning, timing, right? The decisions that have been made about when to do what we've done and how much to do what we do, and then just great, just looking at which month, and it's, boy, I mean.
Yeah, we're all very, very pleased.
I wish there
that
was
it
a
came
way
out
to
this way.
shout this from a mountaintop.
Well, this is kind of it, so yeah,
Yep, this is our mountaintop.
Big deal.
this is a huge
Oh,
deal. This is a huge deal for.
It's
our
good
community.
financial stewardship for our community.
There's one little piece, just so you know, we inserted in here, was to do this middle deal as late in June, we had to make a payment on the interest in December, which we can't get to a levy to do that. But we knew we had some excess money in the debt service funds, and there's been some complaints historically about carrying too much, some of these amounts in the debt service fund, but this was the day we were looking for a time when we have some excess reserves in there, spend it down where it can do the most thing, and we wouldn't have been able to issue those bonds in June if we didn't have that.
Didn't have that.
Didn't have that money.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, well, this is one of those, I can guarantee you that if it was the dollars going the other way,
Yeah.
meaning
Oh, yeah.
costing us more than we expected, that it'd be in some sort of article in, newspaper, something.
Should have been. So,
Just
yeah.
saying that but I know this isn't a headline grabber,
But
right?
it should be.
But it should be, because it's great news. And so thank you.
Absolutely.
Okay.
All right.
Anything else on the facility plan?
Nope, that's it for master facility.
Have we had some freedom of information?
Oh,
on
we
this?
have, and we've responded to them, and they're posted on our website as they always are.
Well, we're going to move on to the consent agenda. Before we do, I would just like to shout out to ICF Incorporated, who donated some equipment and office furniture to us that we,
Glad you brought that up,
Really
because
needed.
something I learned today is that they're offering also some of this to South as well. So
Good.
Oh.
it started with North,
Very
but
good.
South said, hey, we saw the list and we like that. And they're like,
like
come
some
on
of that."
over, come get some stuff.
So they're getting some too.
It's estimated,
Good.
our architect's estimated value of 50,000 is just to put a number in so the board can prove it. It may be that, it may be some more, and we appreciate their support of our schools.
we appreciate their
Absolutely.
support, and, it's a great boon to our
Absolutely.
community. So thank you, ICF.
Yes.
So having said that, we need a motion for the Board of Education to approve the consent agenda as presented, which includes A, the personnel report, appointments certified, appointments classified, the change of position classified, B, the personnel report, retirement certified, retirement classified, resignations classified, C, the financial pages, D, the acceptance of the donation from the aforementioned ICF Incorporated, and E, review of closed session minutes and verbatim recordings.
So moved.
I'll second.
Terry moves, Mike seconds.
Thank you. Terry Pavasich? Aye. Mike Davenport?
Aye.
Sherelle Fuller?
Aye.
Dan Nicholas?
Aye.
Rick Pavanato?
Aye.
Joanna Vasquez Drexler?
Aye.
And Nancy Kupka?
Aye, and the consent agenda carries. We're going to move on then to the action items. So our first is we need a motion for the Board of Education to approve the comprehensive annual financial report for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2019 as presented.
So moved.
Second?
Terry, Mike?
Thank you. Thank you. Terry Pavasich?
Aye.
Mike Davenport?
Aye.
Sherelle Fuller?
Aye.
Dan Nicholas? Rick Pavanato?
Aye.
Joanna Vasquez Drexler?
Aye.
Nancy Kupka?
Aye, motion carries. I'd like to make an announcement. The next item of business before the Board of Education is the consideration of a resolution abating the tax heretofore levied for the year 2019 to pay debt service on the general obligation bonds, also known as the alternate revenue source, Series 2011 of the district. Do you have any discussion?
Got a motion first.
A motion for the Board of Education motion for the Board of Education to approve the resolution abating.
So moved. Now we can discuss.
Any discussion? Oh, I get what you're saying. I thought,
You gotta
okay.
move it before
A
you
motion to
move it.
discuss. We have a motion to discuss. Is there any discussion?
I need a second.
I'm
Mike
seconding.
seconding
Now we can discuss.
Are you moving to do this or to discuss
to
it?
discuss. Is
Or
there
you
any
mo- or-
discussion?
No. I
No,
thought we were
moving-
moving the motion,
Read the
and then typically after the motion, a motion's been made and seconded, then we can have some discussion before we call the vote,
So we
yes?
need the motion.
That's that.
Yeah.
I think that's,
All right, we're having,
We got to read the whole motion.
Read the whole motion.
read the whole motion. Okay,
Please.
thank you, sorry.
Let the whole motion be read into
The motion is for the Board of Education to approve the resolution abating the tax heretofore levied for the year 2019 to pay debt service on general obligation bonds or alternate revenue source, Series 2011 of Community High School District Number 99, DuPage County, Illinois.
and you are,
And I move that.
We move that we
right, and I second that
approve that.
movement.
And you're seconding that we approve it. There's no other discussion.
Now,
And
if there's
discuss.
any discussion.
Okay. Any discussion?
Okay. Terry Pavasich.
Sitch.
I
thought we had some discussion.
After all that, we should have had some
Much
kind of
ado
discussion.
about
You gotta
nothing.
do it in the right.
Got to do it the right
Okay.
way, and
Wise.
I've got the parliamentary Nazi-ness in me.
Thank you so much. Mike Davenport.
Aye.
Cheryl Fuller.
Aye.
Dan Nicholas.
Aye.
Rick Pavanato. Joanna Vasquez Drexler.
Aye.
And Nancy Kupka.
Aye, motion carries, discussion closed, and again, thank you to our stewards for the district.
Yes.
Next, we need a motion for the Board of Education to approve the fees per contact hour as presented for all summer sports camps for the 2020 program year.
So moved.
Terry? Joanna, sorry, you were a little too slow.
For once.
Terry Pavasich.
Aye.
Joanna Vasquez Drexler.
Aye.
Mike Davenport.
Aye.
Cheryl Fuller.
Aye.
Dan Nicholas.
Aye.
Rick Pavanato.
Protest vote.
Nancy Kupka.
Aye, motion carried. Next, we need a motion for the Board of Education to approve the fiscal year 2020 Round 1 School Maintenance Project Grant Application as presented.
So moved.
Second.
We need a second.
Are there prizes tonight for this?
Dan was first. We have a second.
Dan was first, we need a second.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, you can be second.
I second. Yeah.
Thank you. Dan Nicholas.
Aye.
Joanna Vasquez Drexler.
Aye.
Mike Davenport.
Aye.
Cheryl Fuller.
Aye.
Terry Pavasich.
Aye.
Rick Pavanato.
Aye.
And Nancy Kupka.
Aye, motion carries. This is so much more fun than the old one.
In the new year.
Moving on, this is the second reception of visitors, which is intended for audience members to address the board on any topic pertaining to Community High School District 99. Is anybody here to address the board? Hearing none, we will move on to communications and announcements. Lend, any report?
I have no report.
Okay. Sassad, Joanna, anything to update?
No, CSD, all they did was do a audit report, kind of what we did here, and their budget. So,
Okay.
kind of that's it.
Great.
Tis the season.
99 Education Foundation?
Yes, remember, put this on your calendars, February 27th, Pizza Wars, and tickets go on sale the 3rd. The vendors are Zazu's, Shapiro's, Tortorici's, Papa's
Passaro's.
Pizza
Papa's
Place.
Pizza, okay.
Say that
Good
3
pizza.
times fast. Scuttlebutts, Rosati's, Lou Malnati's, and Pizzeria 32. And there are sponsorships available, and the deadline for that to get into the booklet is January 31st. So if you have something that you would like to advertise, business cards, that sort of thing, you can purchase those. And also on February 27th, it's going to be a very full day. We're doing Young Hearts for Life at North. So all students, their parents need to sign up for that. It's a very, very good program. They do EKGs on children for any heart problems. And they will be testing them all day in their PE periods. So that is February 27th at North. We did it at South this last fall. The other thing is that the foundation provides a great opportunity for people to give back to the community. So if you would like to volunteer for any positions on the board and event committees, please contact Julia Beckman for more information, and that's at d99foundation@gmail.com. So if anybody is interested, and it's also an opportunity to donate. So there is a button for that, so please donate if possible, because all of the money that we generate goes back to our students via grants, and that's the end of my commercial. So remember, the 27th, we'd like to see everybody there.
Is it earlier this year or no?
No, it's later than it was originally because of the way the school schedule is. But I think it was the end of February last year.
I think so,
I was traveling, so I
It
didn't
might
make
have,
It's no longer
day or two
smack dab
different.
in the back, in the middle of finals, so
Right.
yeah.
it's a good
yeah,
thing.
Yeah. And I believe the next day is a day off of school for Teacher Institute, isn't it? Or is that the last day of finals? I forget kind of how it goes, but anyway,
1 week at a time, Terry.
yeah, I know.
Come out and eat pizza and donate.
Come out and eat.
Yes, because I'll tell you, we've got some great pizza parlors. You get to vote on best pizza, best crust, and best sauce. So, you know.
Most importantly, you get to eat pizza.
To eat lots of
Oh,
pizza.
yeah. And
A
if
lot
you-
of pizza.
If you walk away hungry, it's your own fault.
Yeah, and for our 2 student board members, if you guys would like to dinner,
Please
Pay for
talk
you.
it up among your
Yeah.
peers.
Sherelle's buying pizza for
you
student
too.
board members. Nice.
buy tickets.
So, and for $10, you can't go wrong. So, all right, that's it.
Illinois Association of School Boards?
Yes, we have our spring meeting coming up on March 4th, so if you haven't done so already, let Julie know if you want to attend. And then the National School Board Association is having their convention in Chicago, and I think that's April 4th through the 6th. I cannot attend. That's the end of our spring break week, actually, so I will be
Gone.
on college visits. That's how we're spending the whole week. So I'll be somewhere in Iowa, I think, on that day.
Is anybody going to that?
So as far as, if I was going to be around, I was going to go, but
What is it?
I would
again?
like to go.
Then
Because
National Association of
it
School
is
Boards.
very interesting.
Oh, 'cause we
Absolutely.
have
If you're
the
interested in
national-
going, let Julie know and we'll
It's the national
get you registered.
convention.
yeah. Yeah, it's here in Chicago, which doesn't happen
Yeah.
very
Well, they
often.
rotate.
Yeah, it's all.
I think I asked
Yeah.
this before.
Because
Probably
the
Florida
last time it was in
College.
Chicago was when Katrina hit, because it was supposed to be in New Orleans, and they then turned it to Chicago because they had available space.
That was a long time
And
ago.
I know I went and Julie went to that, and it was very worthwhile.
Seems like it would be. So does it runs kind of like the local, where it's 4 days and it's lots of.
I was assuming so.
It's
Yeah,
a lot
it's-
of different group sessions,
A
kind
lot
of
of breakout
thing.
sessions.
You should have gotten
Yeah.
the information mailed to your
It's similar
home.
to the joint.
They mailed one to us. I got one this week.
This
We can
week?
get it to you in
Yeah.
Okay.
preliminary notes.
It just
Or you
came in
can
the
go on
mail.
the-
I
When
was,
did you get it? Like,
it just came this weekend, because it was in my mail when we got home
I don't
today.
Yeah.
know. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or I better look through all my.
I was curious about how it would differ, right? So,
Yeah.
and maybe gaining perspectives from people from all over the country.
That is the
and-
key difference to the
Yes.
joint conferences. It is national, right? So you'll
Yeah.
hear from schools from across the country. I've gone and presented a couple of times at different spots, and I mean, that's the key
It's
difference.
much bigger because it's at McCormick Center, I believe.
Yes, it's
isn't it?
much bigger than the joint
Yeah,
conference.
yeah,
So
so
do
it's
we-
it's like ours on steroids.
Oh, okay.
Do we generally have a representative from our school? Do we, or is that
Isn't-
optional, this thing?
There isn't, I don't know that is there a,
Like, do you go?
I don't even know if there's some sort of a.
You don't generally see.
No, there's nothing like what you
Conference,
did
right.
at the, there's no delegate.
There's no
conference.
delegate assembly,
Yeah,
right,
but-
right.
Yeah.
But it's very similar to the joint annual conference, just bigger. And
I mean, do you go? Do you have to go?
I have gone on and off over the years. I'm not planning on going.
So kind of, last question, so kind of, if we wanted to, I know schools are governed by the state, but if we wanted to kind of pick up what other people are doing and see what makes sense, because I don't know how else you guys may keep up with it or may not have to or care to do so, just
If I had a
wondering.
choice to go to the state or this one, with this one being right here, just because I've gone to the state conference so many times, to do something different in those,
Yeah.
I mean, this was really, I was kind of looking forward to going until
I mean, you can't go.
our plans, so I'm not going to go into all my family plans, but my plans changed. So I'm no longer going to be around.
Well, and you can look at the schedule and see what you might be interested in, because when we went, we just went for one day, just to go to a
Yeah.
couple of interesting
that, right?
topics. And so you don't have to go for all 4 days or anything like that. You can just, we took the train down, and then went to the McCormick Center and
So I'm hearing so you'd like to go?
I'd like to go.
Maybe
I wanna
there's some
go.
other
I
interest
just wanna
there,
see
so
what the
maybe
different
We'll get the
things are.
information
Yeah,
out to the
yeah.
board.
It's the
Yeah.
4th through the 6th.
Right.
And
And I'm sure they have it on the website, what
Yeah.
every
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
event is, so you can just see what you'd
Notes
like
for
to
the board.
do.
That's all I have.
we'll dig up some money somewhere if we have to.
Oh, yeah, man, we'll be all right.
Take donations, stand on the
The
corner.
board has a fund for professional development.
Development, yeah. Okay, anything else?
No.
Okay, we need to motion.
Hey,
oh,
wait. There is something else.
Board meetings.
Next upcoming board
Board
meetings. I would like to cancel next week's board meeting.
No.
No.
My goodness.
Was it next week already?
Since it follows this week, we don't have any pressing agenda items.
Must we?
Yeah, it would be next
Must,
week.
we must.
Yeah, it would be next week. Yeah.
Yeah, that's okay by me.
If you're all right, if the board's all right with having a night off,
Okay.
the administration has no items for you. However, Nancy, it's up to you.
Well, had you asked, no, you did ask me, but yeah, that's fine by me. Unless somebody's got some pressing they want to talk, yeah.
I'm going to miss you all.
Okay, so the next meeting will be February 24th.
Correct.
Will be our regular business meeting, 6:30 here.
Correct.
Enjoy your evening on February 3rd.
Thank you.
Now can I go?
Yes.
Okay, we need a motion to go into closed session for the collective negotiating matters between the district and its employees or their representatives, or deliberations concerning salary schedules for one or more classes of employees, and litigation when an action against, affecting, or on behalf of the district has been filed and is pending before a court or administrative tribunal, or when the district finds that an action is probable or imminent, in which case the basis for the finding shall be recorded and entered into the minutes of the closed meeting. Was it Joanna and Cheryl?
Thank you, and thank you. Joanna Vasquez Drexler?
Aye.
Cheryl Fuller?
Aye.
Dan Nicholas? Terry Pavasich?
Aye.
Rick Pavanato?
Aye.
Mike Davenport?
Yes.
And Nancy Kupka?
Yes, we are going into closed session.
And it'll be in here after just a short
Short break.
And
So
it
thank
is
you all.
a short closed session.